Chosen one. Somewhere under marble floors and stained glass ceilings, in a cold stone room beneath the Vatican, there's a record with your bloodline on it, folded, stamped, and filed where the public was never meant to see. Not a fairy tale, not some fan fiction version of your life, but a carefully documented lineage that didn't fit the story the world was supposed to be told. Your name, or the names that led to you, show up in places that would make a lot of important people very uncomfortable if they knew. So instead of being honored, that royal trace was hidden. Instead of being crowned, your line was quietly edited out. And yet, even without the paper proof in your hands, your life has been screaming the truth in a language only the spirit understands. You've always moved differently, and people felt it long before they could name it. They couldn't explain why your presence shifted the atmosphere when you walked into a room. They couldn't explain why you felt like both a threat and a comfort at the same time. Too grounded to be ordinary, too humble to be arrogant, too intense to be ignored. So they made up stories. They're dramatic. They think they're better than everyone. They act like they're royalty or something. What they didn't know is that the reason you never fully fit in is because your spirit remembers a level of honor your environment was never trained to give. Your soul carries protocol from halls you've never stepped into physically. Ancestral memory of palaces, councils, spiritual courts where your line once had a seat. That memory leaks through your posture, your standards, your refusal to bow to what feels wrong. To people who only know a world of compromise, that comes off as attitude. To heaven, it's muscle memory. The Vatican hid your royal title on paper, but they couldn't erase the evidence written in your character. They could lock away documents, suppress surnames, rewrite histories, marry certain lines into obscurity, move your ancestors across borders and oceans. But they could not stop that quiet authority from resurfacing generation after generation until it reached you. That's why you've always been treated like too much and not enough at the same time. Too much for small minds, not enough for corrupted systems that only honor crowns they can control. You were never meant to play their game. You were meant to expose it simply by existing as proof that nobility doesn't come from gold-threaded robes or public thrones. It comes from a soul that stays true under pressure. The Vatican could hide your title from the world, chosen one, but they could not hide you from yourself forever. That's the season you're in now. The slow, undeniable realization that the royalty they buried in their archives has been walking around in your bones this entire time. Chosen one. People have been making up lore about your background for as long as you can remember because the real story was never made available to them. They argue about where you're really from. They debate what your family must have done. They swear you're exaggerating when you say you don't know all the details, as if ignorance isn't sometimes engineered. Some say your people were poor and insignificant. Others insist there must be something in your blood because you don't carry yourself like someone who comes from nothing. They can't agree on a narrative because the official version of your origin was blurred on purpose. Papers lost, names changed, records misfiled, entire branches of the tree cut off in documents, so your line could disappear into the crowd. You felt that erasure in your bones. Family gatherings where certain questions were never answered directly. Stories that break off at the same generation every time. A great-grandparent nobody wants to talk about in detail. Strange pauses when you ask about maiden names, old countries, titles, or why your features don't quite match the story you were given. You were told, that's just how it is. Let the past stay in the past. But your spirit never accepted that. Something in you knew that the silence wasn't healing. It was hiding agreements that were made without your consent, hiding alliances between church, state, and bloodline that required some heirs to be pushed down so others could be pushed up, hiding the fact that in some very old book, in a very old city, your line was once marked as too powerful to be left unmonitored. So while people gossip about whether you're making your story bigger than it is, What they're actually sensing is the gap between the script you were handed and the truth your aura remembers. They feel royalty but see no crown, feel authority but see no title, feel depth but see no documented pedigree. And the cognitive dissonance drives them crazy. Instead of admitting they don't understand, they label you dramatic, delusional, attention-seeking. But the irony is brutal. The ones calling you a liar are basing their confidence on records that were edited to keep you ignorant of your own rank. The Vatican hid your royal title, yes, but heaven did not. That's why pieces of your true story keep leaking through in the way strangers treat you with sudden respect, in the way children gravitate toward you, in the way elders sense something ancient in your eyes and say, "You've been here before," without knowing how literally they're speaking. Chosen one. Listen to how people talk about your material life. Some swear you secretly have money stacked somewhere. Others are convinced you're barely making it. Someone insists you must have powerful connections behind the scenes. Someone else is certain you're all talk and no backing. The stories contradict each other constantly, and yet they all orbit the same core feeling. Nobody actually believes you're regular. They either inflate your status or try to shrink it, because accepting what you really are, an unacknowledged heir, would force them to rethink everything they believe about rank in this world. Your relationship with resources has always been strange by design. Doors that should have stayed closed for someone like you opened at the last minute. People of influence showed you unexpected favor, while ignoring those who seemed more qualified on paper. You had seasons of struggle where somehow you still carried yourself with a calm dignity that didn't match your circumstances. Other times you've had access to things far beyond your official salary, not through manipulation but through alignment, through bizarre synchronicities, through favor that made no logical sense. That confusion people feel when they look at your life. How do they live like that? How do they keep landing on their feet? Is the echo of a title they can't see but can't quite dismiss either. The Vatican could freeze your family's claims to land, wealth, spiritual authority. They could quietly reassign estates, redirect inheritance, rebrand sacred blood as ordinary. But they could not stop the energetic reality of your lineage from leaking into your finances, your opportunities, your aura. That's why rumors say you're both rich and broke, depending on who's talking. They're feeling the tension between a hidden royal frequency and a human life still catching up to it. You don't brag because you know what you have can be taken in a moment. You don't despair because something in you knows you were never meant to be limited to what's in your account today. You are learning, slowly, that your worth was never meant to be measured in numbers anyway. The real inheritance is in your posture toward material. Calm, sovereign, unpanicked. And that is exactly how true royalty moves, whether the crown is on their head yet or not. You've noticed how offended people get when you don't hand them your whole story on command. They ask about your family, and you give a soft, shortened answer. They dig into your childhood, and you change the subject. They want details about your relationships, your income, your next moves, and you keep it vague. In a world addicted to oversharing, your restraint feels like a crime. Why won't you just tell me? Quickly becomes, what are you hiding? But that leap reveals everything about their entitlement and almost nothing about your character. They don't understand that your silence isn't performance. It's protection. Chosen one, you carry a lineage that has already been exploited, traded, and silenced once. Your ancestors know what happens when too much of your blueprint becomes public property. They watch titles negotiated away behind closed doors. They watch sacred roles turned into political chess pieces. They watched entire bloodlines get scattered, married off, or erased for the sake of someone else's narrative. That memory lives in your nervous system as a deep instinct. Do not give everyone access to the most vulnerable parts of you, so you learn to share selectively, to speak from your scars, not your open wounds, to reveal your path in layers, not in one dramatic dump that leaves you exposed to people who see your life as entertainment. The Vatican hid your royal title, and heaven compensated by upgrading your boundaries. The less people know about your exact origins, the less they can weaponize them. The less they know about your love life, the harder it is to curse what they can't clearly see. The less they know about your full plans, the harder it is to sabotage what hasn't been spoken yet. So yes, they will keep inventing stories to fill the silence. They'll call you secretive, deceptive, acting above everyone. Let them. Every rumor is a fog machine around a throne they were never meant to touch. Every wrong guess is a shield around the parts of you God is still shaping. You're not being fake by keeping your life sacred. You're honoring a royal line that already paid the price for being too visible once. This time, the unveiling is happening on your terms, not theirs. Chosen one, there's a reason your line was edited out instead of celebrated. Your bloodline carries a combination that institutions fear. Authority plus conscience, influence plus compassion, power plus refusal to be controlled. Somewhere back there, someone with your last name or the name before it was altered refused to play along. They challenged corruption inside a structure that was supposed to be untouchable. They saw money moving where it shouldn't. Secrets kept that shouldn't have been. Alliances made with darkness in the name of light. And instead of staying quiet, they spoke. Instead of bowing, they stood. Instead of selling out, they paid the cost. That's when decisions were made over your line, without your consent. We can't erase them completely, someone said, but we can dilute them. We can bury them under false narratives. We can marry them down, move them out, change their names, hide their titles, and make sure their descendants never know what was once theirs. You've been living under the weight of those decisions your whole life. Teachers telling you to lower your expectations. Employers telling you to know your place. Religious voices telling you that wanting more for your soul is pride. Every time you try to stand up straighter, some agent of that old agreement tried to push your head back down. What they didn't count on was how stubborn divine design is. You are the proof that suppression is not the same as deletion. The Vatican could pull your royal title off the visible map, but they could not disconnect you from the spiritual jurisdiction attached to it. That's why systems keep glitching when they mishandle you. That's why people who abuse your trust eventually face strange collapses. That's why places that exploit you end up exposed. Your very presence is a walking audit. Your bloodline was once assigned to guard something sacred. And even if the paperwork was shredded, heaven never canceled the assignment. Every attempt to keep you small and manageable is rubbing against a contract older than any institution. Your line was never meant to exist just to obey. It was meant to exist to uphold truth. As much as it hurts to know that your title was hidden, there's a darker truth you need to hear. If it hadn't been, you might not be alive. If your royal connection had been widely acknowledged in this era, with your current level of innocence and openness, you would have been hunted long before your discernment matured. Your name would have attracted opportunists, parasites, industry predators, false spiritual leaders desperate to attach themselves to your light. You would have been paraded, commodified, sacrificed on the altar of someone else's agenda. Instead, heaven let the Vatican file your crown away and let the world mislabel you on purpose. Too sensitive, too intense, too confused, too much. Those labels hurt, but they also acted like camouflage. People who sniffed around for somebody to exploit took one look at your chaos season and assumed you weren't useful yet. They moved on. Relationships that would have drained you dry lost interest when they realized you weren't easily impressed by status alone. Job opportunities that would have trapped you in golden cages never materialized. It felt like rejection, but it was redirection away from rooms that would have demanded your royalty while starving your soul. Chosen one, your hidden title has been a shield. You were trained in the wilderness instead of the palace for a reason. You learned to recognize manipulation without anyone spelling it out for you. You learned to survive without depending on a system that would have owned you if it knew your true value. Now, as your spiritual identity starts to surface, you're not the naive heir they thought they could shape. You're bruised, wiser, harder to fool. You've tasted enough betrayal to know what loyalty is worth. So when your crown energy finally steps into the light, you won't hand it to the first institution that pretends to understand. You will remember what happened the last time they sat over your bloodline with a pen, and you will say, "Never again." People have always struggled to explain your gifts. You sense things before they happen. You read rooms without trying. You feel when someone's lying even if the words sound perfect. Your dreams play like encrypted messages that later make sense. Your prayers hid in ways that scare people who've never seen that kind of accuracy. Some call you too spiritual. Others whisper which psychic, weird. Religious minds accuse you of being deceived. New Age minds try to recruit you into paths that don't feel right to your soul. Everybody has a label, but none of them quite fit. Here's the truth they missed. Your bloodline was never just royal in the political sense. It was priestly. It carried access, spiritual clearance into realms most people aren't built to walk in without losing themselves. Somewhere in your ancestry, there were keepers of sacred knowledge, guardians of texts, interpreters of dreams and signs, people who knew how to stand between heaven and earth and translate. When the Vatican hid your royal title, they weren't just burying earthly nobility. They were bearing evidence that your line once mediated power in both worlds. They hoped, over generations, that this would dilute, that the sense, the sight, the knowing would fade. It didn't. It resurfaced in you. So of course your abilities unsettle people. You are accidentally proving that some of what they locked away in archives has leaked back into the population through you. You are an uncomfortable reminder that no institution owns access to God. When your intuition saves you from accidents, when your discernment exposes liars, when your presence calms chaos without you saying a word, that is your priestly DNA doing exactly what it was designed to do. You are not cursed. You are not too much. You are operating with senses that were never meant to be shut down, just steward with wisdom. The Vatican hid your title. They did not successfully shut off your line. Your very existence is a glitch in their plan and a confirmation of heavens. Listen to the way people talk about you when they think you don't hear. Some say you're secretly rich. Some say you're secretly cursed. Some say you're connected to powerful people. Others swear you're completely alone. Some insist you've done terrible things. Others insist you're a saint. The stories contradict each other so violently that if you laid them all out, you'd look like 10 different people. It used to bother you. You wanted to defend yourself, correct the record, explain who you really are. But you're starting to realize something wild. The confusion is working for you. Every rumor is a layer of fog around the truth. The ones who want easy access to you can't find a clear path because they're too busy tripping over conflicting stories. The ones looking for dirt get lost and walk away empty-handed. People can't target what they can't clearly define. They can't copy what they can't fully see. They can't curse what they can't lock onto. So heaven lets the law about you spin while you stay anchored in what you actually know. They call it a double life because their minds can't process a multidimensional existence. They label your privacy shady because they have never met a soul who treats their destiny like something sacred instead of content. Chosen one, your mystery is not an accident. It's a defense system. The Vatican thought hiding your royal title would erase you. Instead, God used that hiding as a blueprint for how to cover you in this era. Concealed but not lost. Talked about but not touched. Misunderstood but deeply protected. Every time you choose not to over-explain, not to expose your entire process, not to hand out your story like a free sample. You are cooperating with that protection. You are letting the fog stay where it needs to stay until the right moment, the right platform, the right people are in position to handle the full revelation of who you are without trying to own, exploit, or destroy it. Chosen one, the wildest part of all of this is that the Vatican's archive isn't even the highest place your name appears. Down here, institutions decide which bloodlines get inked and which get erased. They edit chronicles, redraw family trees, crown one branch and starve another. But above all that, there is a record they can't touch, a book no council votes on, a registry where titles aren't bought, married into, or negotiated through politics, but signed based on soul contract. Your name is there, not the one that got mispronounced in classrooms or mocked in playgrounds, but the name heaven calls when it's time to wake you up, the one your spirit hears in dreams, the one that makes your whole body feel seen when no one is in the room. That's why no amount of earthly erasure has ever fully worked on you. You've been overlooked and somehow still remembered, pushed aside and somehow still relevant, rejected from spaces that later had to circle back to your energy in some indirect way. People forgot you on purpose and still found themselves repeating your words years later like revelation. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when your true registration isn't in their system, but in a higher one. They can stamp unknown over your bloodline all they want. Heaven's record never synced to their edits. Your royal title may be hidden from tourists and textbooks, but in the realm that actually runs things, your rank has never been downgraded. So when you feel that deep ache, the one that says, I was meant for more than this, but you can't point any evidence on paper, believe it. That's your soul remembering where it's listed. That's why crowns that don't belong to you never fit, and roles beneath your calling feel like slow suffocation. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you are not built to live forever as a footnote in a story your ancestors once helped write. The Vatican hid your royal title, but they didn't issue it. They never had the authority to revoke what they only recorded. The one who gave it didn't change their mind. Right now, you are in a season that feels like both an identity crisis and an initiation, because your royal energy is waking up faster than your old life can adjust. Clothes, jobs, conversations, habits that used to feel fine suddenly feel too small, too noisy, too low. You catch yourself straightening your back when you walk, speaking more clearly, saying no faster, choosing solitude over shallow company. It almost feels like you're acting different, but the truth is you're acting like yourself a first time without apologizing. The crown they hid from your head is starting to grow from your spine instead. This reclamation doesn't start with a throne. It starts with decisions. You reclaim your title every time you refuse to let people speak to you like you're disposable. You reclaim it when you walk away from dynamics that treat your love like it's cheap. You reclaim it when you stop begging to sit at tables that mock the values your bloodline was built to protect. Royalty is not about being worshipped. It's about living in a way that honors what you carry. You're remembering that now. That's why you feel physically sick in spaces that used to feel fun, spiritually heavy in conversations that used to be normal, emotionally drained by patterns you once called just how it is. Your soul is no longer willing to co-sign environments that insult your assignment. Chosen one, you don't need a letter from the Vatican to start walking like your lineage matters. You don't need anyone's permission to treat your time, body, mind, and spirit like they belong to someone important. Because they do. This is your coronation in slow motion. Not a ceremony, but 1,000 tiny choices where you stop living like an erased heir and start living like a restored one. The paper will catch up later. The world will catch up later. Heaven already has. As your energy shifts, more people are going to go digging. Curiosity, jealousy, or conviction will drive them back into your past, asking, who are they really? Where did they come from? What did they do? Some will search hoping to find proof that you're a fraud. Others will search, trying to understand how you became who you are. They'll talk to old classmates, exes, neighbors, co-workers. They'll scroll through old posts, old photos, old versions. They're expecting scandal. What they'll actually bump into is something much more inconvenient. Evidence of your character. They'll find stories of you helping when you had nothing. Messages where you apologize when you weren't fully at fault because you valued peace more than ego. Memories of you taking the blame to protect somebody weaker. Times you disappeared not because you were plotting, but because you were hurting and refused to bleed all over everyone. Yes, they might hear about seasons where you were messy, reactive, lost. But even then, the pattern emerges. You learned. You grew. You changed. You didn't stay there. For every mistake, there's a moment where your heart tried to course correct. For every downfall, there's a quiet rise. And that chosen one is the real scandal. Not that you're secretly terrible, but that you've been this noble without knowing your full rank. People expect heirs to act privileged. You acted principled when you thought you were just surviving. When gossipers come looking for dirt, they'll find soil that's been turned over, planted, watered. They'll find roots. They'll find the kind of consistency that makes it very hard to sell a narrative that you're pretending to be better than you are. In trying to expose you, they expose the buried royalty your life has been hinting at the whole time. They become unwilling witnesses in your case file for restoration. So here you are, chosen one. No physical crown on your head. No official crest on your wall. No framed certificate from any cathedral acknowledging what your spirit already knows. And yet, when you walk into certain rooms now, conversations shift. When you speak, even softly, people go quiet in ways they can't explain. Children stare at you like they remember you from somewhere. Strangers tell you their secrets without knowing why they trust you. Environments that used to swallow you whole suddenly feel too small to contain you. That's what it looks like when a title hidden on paper becomes undeniable in energy. The Vatican can keep their locked drawers and red wax seals. They can keep the altered family trees and half-told histories. They can keep the human version of your story. Because the truth is, your real coronation isn't happening in their halls. It's happening every time you choose integrity over image, purpose over performance, calling over comfort. Every time you refuse to betray your soul, to fit into systems your ancestors once challenged. Your crown gleams a little brighter in realms that actually matter. You are the receipt that erasure failed. The living proof that spiritual royalty can survive exile, poverty, slander, ignorance, and still remember how to stand. You don't have to prove your title to anyone. You don't have to drag your lineage into debates with people who enjoy disrespect. You don't have to show up with documents to justify the weight of your presence. Walk like your bloodline has something to answer to beyond this century, because it does. Love like your choices echo beyond your lifetime, because they do. Protect your peace like a kingdom depends on it, because in ways you don't fully see yet, it does. The Vatican hid your royal title. Heaven did not. History down here may never correct itself fully, but your life, your glow, your boundaries, your grace under pressure are already rewriting the story where it matters most. You are the title now. You are the crown in motion. You are the royal line they tried to bury, walking around in broad daylight, completely unstoppable by design. If you want the supporter of Chosen Secrets, you can share a super thanks, or you can become a member of Chosen Secrets. God bless you, chosen ones. Luke 6 verse 38. Give, and it will be given to you. A good amount will be poured into your lap.